So why does trapping not work? Trapping is very indiscriminate. If you're putting a trap in your backyard, you're saying to every animal that's out there, free food, come one, come all. So you're going to attract them to your home when the whole purpose is to keep them away from your home. Every year we'll talk to homeowners that say, I've trapped 20 raccoons this year, and I've been trapping 20 raccoons for 20 years. It's a great hobby. You're never going to get rid of them all. The way nature works, if you take 20 out of that neighborhood, it allows raccoons in the outlying neighborhoods to move in. So all of a sudden, the raccoons that move in, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're healthier, and instead of having litter sizes of 3 or 4 babies, they have 6 or 7. So all of a sudden, there's been documented studies on this, the population increases by 20%. So once again, it's a matter of living with these animals and animal-proofing your structures. We're never going to get rid of all these animals. Orphaning, starvation of young. We'll get this time and time again every baby season, which is typically in the spring. Homeowner will trap a mother raccoon, take it from North Oakville to South Oakville, not realizing there's babies in the attic. And the babies will be in there crying all night long, as we heard earlier, suckling on insulation. Eventually they'll die, and the homeowner will have a worse problem than they're experiencing with a live animal. Because the babies, depending on their age, might get mobile, they might go down a wall cavity, might fall in an inaccessible area, and that's where we're into cutting holes and tearing walls down to find dead animals. If you have a dead raccoon this size in a wall, the minute you walk in your front door, you're going to smell death. And that smell will last for about 60 days. So you definitely don't, trapping is not a very good practice, ethically and humanely. It could spread diseases. There was a viral strain of rabies that was really affecting raccoons and was called raccoon rabies. It was coming out from the US in the 90s. The government, the MNR, were baiting kind of a blister pack that vaccinated the raccoons. They'd eat it and vaccinate themselves. They thought the disease was going to spread over in the Niagara area coming across, so they did between the Niagara River and the Welland Canal, Welland River. But the virus came up around through Prescott and in the Kingston area. The Ontario government has done a great job keeping it kind of at bay, but if people are trapping and relocating animals from Burlington to Oakville or vice versa, then all of a sudden this disease could start spreading. So that's why the MNR came in and said you can no longer trap and relocate urban wildlife. There's a high potential for damage and tampering and vandalism and liability. If you have a trap in your backyard and trap your neighbor's cat and the cat perishes, I'm sure there's going to be some legal issues with that. And as we stated earlier, the population will only rebound, right? They'll just keep moving in and taking over. Why hire a professional? Well, we've seen a lot of everything. So this is a homeowner that kind of got ingenious and went on his roof and put a blue box and put a toilet seat. So his thought was, below the entry hole here, which is a vent, similar to this one, that the raccoon would come out, climb up, push the toilet seat up, walk away, and wouldn't be able to open that again. Well, it didn't work. We finally got the call. The customer went through about 2 months trying this system before he hired us. We've had raccoons that learned how to use the garage door opener. Homeowner called us out and said, I got a raccoon in my attic, The garage was attached to the house. We searched for about an hour until we finally found the paw prints going up and down the joist space. So at night, one night the homeowner left his door open, raccoon walked in, climbed up the joist where the button was, pushed the button, and the door closed. So he slept all day in there. And then nightfall, he climbed down the same spot, hit the button, garage door open, out he went for his foraging for food, came back in the morning, did the same thing, closed the garage door. So they are a highly intelligent animal, and sometimes they will still give us a run for our money. And we see 50, 60 job sites a day, and even sometimes we'll get a call that it's one of these very, very intelligent raccoons. So unfortunately, our industry is not licensed or regulated. We've seen many companies come and go. So my recommendation is always for homeowners, if you are going to hire a company, make certain you do your due diligence. Look for referrals. Wildlife should be their main source of business. you know, there's anybody with a pickup truck and a trap can say they're in the humane wildlife removal business. So look for referrals, don't trap, because that won't solve your problem. Safety, you know, this is an industry where you're climbing, you know, to do it properly, the company should be having full body harnesses on, tied off onto your roof due to Ontario labor laws. If you're 9 feet or higher, you must be tied off. You don't want somebody just walking all over your roof, because if they fall off, there's some liability issues there. Even though you're the homeowner, depending on what his liability insurance is. All work should be guaranteed. Our service, anytime we seal up anything with our screening or sealant, it's warranted. If the animals get through it, we come back out and get them back out again and seal it back up at no further cost. They have an office. Once again, many people out there just with a cell phone, you know, trying to reach them is very difficult. And as we talked about earlier, referrals. Some things to be cautious about if you are going to do it yourself. This was an exhaust vent for the furnace. This one here is just rusted right through due to the fumes from the furnace. On this particular case, the homeowner put like a thin netting, and we'll get into a video about why that's not recommended. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Similar to that vent we just showed, which doesn't allow exhausting of your furnace, there's a risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. About 10 years ago, there was a sad story in Toronto where squirrels were living in a chimney similar to this, and these are all the squirrel paw prints. What they do is they'll go down here and chew through here and build their nest. A squirrel nest could be about the size of, you know, 2 garbage bags full of nesting material. So the squirrels were nesting in that area, which prevented the exhausting of the fumes, and unfortunately, I think a family of 3 died from it. So definitely be concerned with any time an animal is in your gas fireplace, your gas furnace, or your gas exhaust. And here's a quick video on doing it yourself.
So when it comes to wildlife proofing a home, you want to make sure that you check out every venting structure on the building. Usually when they're installed, they're not meant to keep out wildlife, so screens need to be installed after the fact. One particular type of vent on a home that you don't want to put screens on, though, is the exhaust for the high efficiency furnace. In this particular case, a homeowner has probably tried to keep mouse out of his home and suspected that this may have been the cause of the mouse entry and has put window screen over top of this vent. This screen has too fine of a mesh, and moisture will condense on this screen. And if we have a really cold night or some freezing rain, an ice plug can develop here, and that'll prevent the furnace from exhausting properly. Obviously, the result would be a backup of carbon monoxide into the home, which could be life-threatening for the residents. You never ever want to install screen over anything that vents a gas appliance. When in doubt, consult the gas company.
But bottom line is, with that gas exhaust pipe, if the mesh is too small, you're going to allow ice to build up, and then the furnace isn't going to exhaust properly. In our 23 years in business, we've never seen animals go in through those exhaust pipes that come out your wall, high efficiency furnaces. Animals just don't go in them. So a lot of people feel they just need to screen them because they see a pipe about so big jutting out of their wall, but it's not a concern. Not your typical day. We get calls for everything and anything, whether it be foxes, monkeys, snakes, llamas, just the nature of the business. So quick clip here of
in Burlington. A raccoon got its head stuck in a jar of peanut butter and was trapped 9 meters up in a tree. AAA Wildlife, along with the SPCA, managed to hook the raccoon and bring it down with the jar still on its head. They punctured holes in the jar so the animal could breathe while they pried it off. The raccoon was a bit rattled by the ordeal, but otherwise unhurt. They won't do that again.
So we're seeing this more and more. Your recycling bins are now becoming a problem. If there's any traces of peanut butter or spaghetti sauce or what have you, animals are now attracted to your blue bin. So if you're going to keep your blue bin outside and not in a secured area, make certain you're either putting the jars on or that the jars are cleaned out properly. It was kind of unheard of 10 or 15 years ago, but we're getting more and more calls where animals are getting into recycling bins and having jars stuck to their head. I mean, that was a raccoon. We've done ones where there's skunks running around with a jar stuck to his head, and that can get a little smelly. Groundhogs, they're another big concern. This one was with the city of Guelph. They had a water treatment plant that was just inundated with raccoons. This is a young groundhog. Snakes. We'll get calls where people have snakes as pets, and whether it be a teenager, and he'll go away for the weekend, and the snake will get out of the trap. And this one was in Montreal. I think it was a 6-foot python that was found in the laundry room of a high-rise apartment building. Foxes, they're becoming more and more prevalent. Oakville tends to have a high fox population, Oakville, Burlington area. The fact that highways and whatnot, the grass is not being as cut usually as it used to be with government cutbacks, so that's allowing the mice population to increase, which is increasing the fox population in our cities. This is probably our most famous job. These were Japanese snow monkeys that were on the loose in Niagara. It was definitely unique. We got the call from the Ministry of Health because monkeys carry hepatitis, HIV, AIDS. This was almost 20 years ago, and right when I was right out of university, and it was in Niagara where I went to university, just outside. And no one goes to school to become a wildlife control person. So I'd have buddies that say, "What are you doing, catching animals?" So I'd get back then it was a pager on my hip at 3 in the morning. It would be, your friends making crank calls. So we got these monkey calls, and monkeys in Niagara, that doesn't exist. And then finally, after about 4 phone calls and the Ministry of Health calling us, they were monkeys that escaped from a private zoo. And we pulled up, and it was like we were in Africa, 30-foot trees, and the monkeys were jumping in the trees. And out comes the farmer, and he's walking up to us carrying a hockey stick, which was kind of strange. And all of a sudden, the mother came bounding out across from the trees, and she stood about so high on all fours and jumped on him. She would go in heat once a year. And when she was in heat, she would try and mate with the farmer. So he loved the monkeys. They would go to the Buffalo Zoo and get primate food and feed them. But he just gently kept her away with the hockey stick. So we used him as bait to catch the mother. We used the mother as bait to catch the young ones. So when people ask us what's the most unique thing you've ever caught, it's the Japanese monkey story. So it was kind of bittersweet because they were animals that were in captivity. The owner basically flew the coop, left all his doors open, and let the monkeys escape. So they were in captivity. They had freedom for about 3 or 4 years, and then we caught them. Before we caught them, we couldn't take them to Toronto Zoo because they already had a troop, and introducing them into a troop, they would be kind of attacked and killed within 30 minutes, Metro Zoo said. So they went to Orono Cat World up Lindsay, Peterborough way. And as far as I know, they're still there. Though the mother did have hepatitis and had to be put down. And the farmer was going down to Atlanta Disease Control Center for tests and whatnot. He was fine, but that's kind of the most unique animal we've caught. Llamas. Once again, this was in our early days. We thought we could catch a couple of llamas. We had a little stick here with a pole on the end, like a lasso, you pull it. We never did catch them. I don't know what we're going to do with them once we caught them, but we gave it our best shot. That was up in Milton. Albino animals, we've had albino squirrels, albino raccoons. Once again, this one was in a litter of 4 or 5. We thought the mother would abandon it. So we got them out of the attic, we put them in our baby release box, thinking the mother would not take it and relocate it to her alternate den site, but she just picked it up and moved it. We went back the next day to check on everything, and they were all out of our release box, and she had relocated them to one of her alternate 5 or 10 den sites. We've caught hawks at the Hamilton Spectator. They were caught in the sign. Some baby hawks. We've done that. And as we've kind of grown the wildlife industry, the next step of our development, which is becoming more and more prevalent, is ectoparasites on these. We have ectoparasites being ticks, fleas, and what have you. So our next step is treating attic spaces, because once you remove the mammals, the raccoons and squirrels from the attic space, these animals are migrating into homes and living off of us as humans or your pets. In fact, there was an article in the Globe and Mail yesterday or the day before where 5 students in, I think, U of T had raccoons in the attic, and of course the landlord got the raccoons out, but didn't treat for the ectoparasites, the ticks and fleas, and all 5 students were covered in flea bites because the fleas had migrated from the attic down into the home. So it's another emerging issue with having an animal in your attic that is bringing in bugs. So that's one of the reasons that we have partnered with Truly Nolan Pest Control. They're the largest family-run pest control company in the world in 60 countries, so we're proud to represent them in Canada. And any of you have places in Florida or been down to Florida, you can recognize Truly Nolan by the mouse car, which we have a few of them here running around Canada, but a lot more to follow in the years to come. So if you can take anything away from my presentation, would be that these animals and bugs are around your home. Get out and examine your home. I would recommend every season, spring, summer, winter, fall. Do an inspection of your home from top to bottom. If you see one insect or one wildlife, there's more. And all of these, whether it's bugs or wildlife, make your home animal proof. There is a way to keep bugs out of your home, just as there's a way to keep wildlife out of your home, so that we can all coexist and live together in these urban centers. One last bit of information, to really understand wildlife, there was a documentary, CBC, David Suzuki. We assisted him with finding some den sites. This was out in Hamilton area, but it's a great show called Raccoon Nation. They dealt with some professors at York University, University of Toronto, that kind of took our philosophy or our data, which was from the mid-'80s, that said there was 15 to 25 raccoons in a square kilometer, and their research showed there's anywhere from 50 to 60. So in the middle of the night when we're all sleeping, these animals are out there having a heyday. 50 or 60 raccoons, and they said they typically go within a 2-block radius. So busy streets such as Upper Middle or maybe Lakeshore, raccoons have adapted to our cities and they won't cross those busy streets because they recognize cars as danger. So within a 2-city block, you could have as many as 50 or 60 raccoons. They illustrate this in the show. So if you have any time and you want to learn more about raccoons in a city, it's a great documentary to watch. So that pretty much concludes my presentation.